Hello, I'm Irma Baker. Welcome to our show. We're sponsored by RSVP, the Retired Senior Volunteer Program, which is a part of Mature Services. And we like to bring you a variety of activities, organizations, and doings around our viewing area. We have a very special guest today with a very summery theme. We'll be right back with our guest after this message.
RSVP of Summit County has been making a difference in our community since 1972. RSVP volunteers are increasing the quality of life by participating in programs and organizations that provide important services to the community. RSVP matches personal interests and skills with opportunities to serve. If you're interested in adding more meaning to your life and improving the lives of others, please call 330-253-4597 extension 166.
Welcome back. Our guest today is Mark Ludwig, and he is a naturalist with the Medina County Park District. We've had him on before, but Mark, it's always good to see you again. So glad you could come by today with some special guests you brought along.
Glad to be back. Butterflies today, so.
Butterflies today,
Yep.
Very summery, and I guess for me, I think of butterflies flitting around the gardens and such, and in the wild. But for the Medina Park District, butterflies are an actual study. Tell us a little bit about what the Park District is doing with butterflies.
Sure. Since 2003, we actually have been doing a survey at our parks, Wolf Creek Environmental Center, and then also Letha House Park, which is in western Medina County. And we have volunteer teams that go out every week. They walk a certain trail and basically just identify butterflies as they see them. So the information goes to the Cleveland Museum of Natural History, goes to the Division of Wildlife, Ohio Biological Survey. So there's many other organizations that receive that information. And it's a long-term butterfly study just to see how the populations are doing. If there's anything that's impacting them, if they're seeing less one year, and so it really helps out.
Well, when I think of butterflies, I think of those big gold ones, gold and black ones, and the yellow and black ones like you brought along today. Yep. Do we actually have many different kinds of butterflies around here?
There's about 20,000 different species of butterflies in the world. About 575 in the United States, 137 in Ohio, and generally we have about 30 to 40 different species in this area. So it's, I would say, a lot.
Well, 30 to 40 different species. I'm sure I have not seen that many. But first of all, I've got a question for you.
Sure.
Are moths and butterflies the same thing?
They are different, and that is the typical question that we get was, what is the difference between butterflies and moths? And if we go to the slides right now, moths usually have, they have a feathery antenna. It would be, next slide, yep. At the bottom, you'll see the two pictures right there. The moths have the feathery antenna, and the butterflies have antennas that look like golf clubs, like little miniature golf clubs. Some of the moths have antennas that look like string coming out of their head. And the other difference too is you can tell that when butterflies land, they generally hold their wings straight up over their back. When moths land, they generally hold their wings flat, or they roll them up and just put them right over their back. But butterflies are generally, they hold their wings vertically.
So just what we're seeing on the screen right there, in the upper left-hand corner, that's a butterfly landing with its wings up.
Straight up, yep.
And down in the back, almost looking like a bat,
Yep.
that moth down in the corner, in the lower corner.
Yes, and there's always an exception to the rule. Sometimes when butterflies are warming up, they will open their wings up and just absorb that the sunlight to help them heat their bodies. So and generally moths are out during the night, butterflies during the day. But there are a few daytime flying moths. A lot of people might be familiar with the hummingbird moth. that looks like a hummingbird. Visits a lot of flowers, obviously during the day for the nectar, but generally moths mostly out at night, so butterflies during the day.
Well, I think that trying to track butterflies has to be even harder than bird watching.
Oh yes, catching them is difficult, but not as difficult as dragonflies though. We've been trying to also study dragonflies as well, and they certainly fly a lot faster, but it is fun. It's the neatest thing about butterflies is just they are amazing creatures. They're very interesting, beautiful, of course, all the different colorations. And so I definitely recommend getting out to our parks and not only watching the wildlife, but also butterflies as well. It's a very relaxing thing, a great outlet to get outside and reduce stress just by watching butterflies. So.
Well, now around here, is like midsummer the only time to see the butterflies?
Generally, July, August, September is probably the best time to see butterflies. You'll start to see them early in March, but in most of the year. But July, August, September is usually the best time for butterflies and insects too. A lot of different kinds of insects. So.
Well, how about introducing us to the butterflies you brought along today?
Sure. Yeah, these are tiger swallowtails, they call them. So they have tiger stripes on their wings, and there's actually a male and female. It's the female generally has more blue on the wings. The male has less. So it's there's not a really close-up of that, but that is definitely a beautiful butterfly to see, and they're quite common right now. You'll see them everywhere right now.
Well, that butterfly keeper that you have them in seems like a very safe habitat for them, for you to come out and show us them. But you have brought a lot of pictures. You're going to give us a little mini tour now of butterflies in our area?
Yep. And that was the easiest way to, I was thinking, how am I going to describe all the different kinds of butterflies? So the pictures are probably the best way. So I'll go over them. The first thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is the life cycle of butterflies. So they start out as an egg, form into a caterpillar that eats leaves, constantly eating. Eventually they'll form a pupa, a chrysalis they call it, and then the adult butterfly will emerge from that. So. This is a monarch, and certainly one of the amazing butterflies out there. Butterflies pretty much are all amazing, but really the amazing thing about a monarch butterfly is that they migrate to Mexico, and the next slide I think has that. So thousands of miles away, that last generation will actually, in the fall, will migrate south to central Mexico, where they spend the winter. And these butterflies live for generally about 9 or 10 months. They'll spend the winter high up in the mountains in central Mexico, and then they'll make their way back in the spring. That generation lays eggs, and then another generation appears. They will head north, lay eggs again, another generation. So in a year, generally, we have about 3 to 4 generations of monarchs, and the ones that are in the summer don't live as long, but the ones that migrate live for 8, 9, 10 months. So it's truly amazing, and it's really amazing how they know where to go. We also tag monarchs not only at my house, but also at Wolf Creek Environmental Center. In September, we have Saturdays right now that you can come out, catch monarchs, and we'll help you tag them. And this is a study done through the University of Kansas called Monarch Watch, and basically it's just try to keep an idea of how the population is doing with the monarchs, and so they tag them, and when they find them down in Mexico, other places, they'll report them to the University of Kansas. I think I said that.
This is just phenomenal. I mean, I'm looking at that picture and seeing that little tag. That has got to be one of the most delicate jobs to try to actually get a tag, excuse me, without damaging the butterfly.
Yep. They've over the years they've tried many tags, but this little tag it doesn't hurt the flight at all. It doesn't hurt the butterfly. It's like my wife says, a little license plate number just to keep track of the butterfly. But it helps the scientists figure out how, like I said, how the populations are doing, where they're going, if any are going other directions, or so it really does help with studying the monarch populations. And the monarch populations have been down over the years, but they are this year actually they're saying they're going to do better, I guess, than previous years. The other neat thing about butterflies is certainly their defenses that they have to avoid getting eaten by predators. And these are just some of the caterpillars that are around the area. Some caterpillars actually have eye spots in the top right corner. They almost mimic like a snake. So maybe a bird is flying along, and
so those aren't real eyes then?
Those are false eyes, false eye spots, and pretending maybe to be a snake. So birds do prey on caterpillars and adults, so they need somehow, some way to defend themselves. So the eye spots maybe look like a snake. Some of the other pictures in the back, if you can go back slide. Oh, sorry. The monarch caterpillars, and we'll talk about that, have warning coloration. Some blend in, like the bottom left-hand corner, they blend into the green. And my favorite one, all the way to the left, the top left corner, actually looks like bird droppings. So, so there is several caterpillars out there that look like bird droppings, and of course, if birds see that, they're going to avoid it because they think it's droppings.
Well,
so
I sure never would have recognized that.
It's amazing the defenses that they have. We can go to the next slide. Some butterflies underneath, they look like a dead leaf, so they blend right into the trees without a problem. And some, this is called a buckeye butterfly, have the giant eye spots in there, once again, maybe to fool the bird into thinking it's something bigger like an owl or a snake, something bigger, so to discourage it from preying upon it. We always get the question also about handling butterflies. The scales constantly fall off throughout their entire life, and the wings constantly fall apart. So in this slide right here, you can see a lot of chunks missing out of the wing, and these are from generally birds that fly after the butterfly, and they'll rip part of the wing out. And the butterflies really have no problem with flight. They still are able to fly pretty well if they're missing the scales or pieces of their wing. It's just a normal part of being a butterfly. So you can tell butterflies that have been that are emerged freshly from the chrysalis, they're pretty much intact. The wings are not missing, the scales are not missing. This is obviously an older butterfly that has been around for maybe several weeks. But it's all part of being a butterfly, so it's normal to lose scales. So it is a myth that if you pick up butterflies or moth, if you remove the scales, they can still fly. So,
but you should still be careful with them.
But still be careful. They are fragile, absolutely. We're going to talk really quickly right now about the different families of butterflies. The first family is the swallowtail family. This is the black swallowtail that you're looking at right now. A common butterfly you see during this time of year. The swallowtail is like the bird, the swallow, that has the long tails on it. So that's kind of where it gets its name. We go to the next slide. Tiger swallowtail is the butterflies that I brought in the studio today. This one, you can see in the bottom part of the butterfly, it's actually missing the tail. So, so this tails generally don't stay too long on the tiger swallowtail. Once again, from probably a bird, trying to eat the butterfly. So I'm pulling off part of the wing. This is also a tiger swallowtail, and the females actually can be all black in color. So it's and it's just the females, not the males. So sometimes it can be. It can look like the black swallowtail and some of the other butterflies, but you can see the tiger stripes in it, so it helps to identify it as well. The next one, spicebush swallowtail. These look very similar to a lot of the other swallowtails, but the one clue that I can give you, if you go to the next slide, if you look under the wing, it kind of looks like where that arrow is pointing, kind of looks like a comet. They're missing that orange spot. So a lot of times you may have to catch them to identify them correctly, but that is called a spicebush. The next family is the whites and sulfurs. One of the most common ones is the cabbage white. A lot of people mistake for a moth.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. To me, that looks like a moth.
So it is a butterfly. But there are moths that fly during the day that can look like the cabbage white, so it can be confusing. Clouded sulfur is another one. If they open their wings on the top part of the wing, if you go to the next slide, all yellow. So the next one is the orange sulfur, and then if we go to the next slide, they open their wings and you have orange. So the clouded sulfur and the orange sulfur can look very similar, but if you see a flash of yellow, it's going to be the clouded sulfur. If you see a flash of orange, it is going to be the orange sulfur. But it can be confusing. Next family of butterflies, gossamer wings. Gossamer is a delicate fabric. So these are generally smaller butterflies, delicate butterflies. Bronze copper, this one is called. The gray hair streak. And the neat thing about the hair streak, if you look to the right, they have a tail that is actually what we call a false antenna. So the head is on the left side, looking at the screen. The false antenna and the false head are actually on the right side. So what happens a lot of times, the birds will fly after this butterfly and they'll grab the wrong side of the butterfly. They'll avoid the head and the actual antenna and basically eat the false antenna, and the butterfly will escape. So it's an amazing adaptation. Eastern tail blue, smaller blue butterfly, very pretty. And this is just the side profile of this butterfly. And spring or summer azure, which kind of gets confusing because they look very similar, but one is out basically in the springtime, the other is out in the summer.
I'm seeing some numbers on some of these screens. They are very tiny butterflies, aren't they? 1 1/4 inches.